Good morning, people. Here we are on Real Lives, Real People with Shyloe again on a Sunday morning at 10:20. I'm Shyloe Fayad, that's me, and I'm a certified transformational life coach, but really, I'm doing this because I'm curious about people. I love people, I love hearing their story, and I've noticed how other people's stories tend to inspire us and motivate us on our own journey. So here we are. We're here today again with the lovely Jen Engracio because guess what? People couldn't get enough of Jen last time she was on the show, so I brought her back. And we just started chatting just a little bit before it started, so I'll just bring her on right now. Hello, Jen. Nice to see you again. Like I said already, I don't really know what we're going to be talking about today, but I wanted to hear a bit more about your books and the whole food addiction thing. And last time we left off on the show, you talked a bit about this daily practice of forgiveness. I think that's what you were talking about. We didn't get much time to talk about it, but I was very curious about how that also related into addiction and the way it helps in your daily living. So I don't know if you feel inspired by any of that, Jen, but let's just rock it.
Well, we could start with forgiveness too, for sure.
That's great.
Good place to start off with. So, I mean, there's different ways to do forgiveness, and often, depending on what you're working on forgiving, some things might take longer than athers. So,
I'm actually going to move because the people's air conditioner next door just cut in, and I don't think we need to hear the air conditioner right now. It's always exciting, on Real Lives, Real People, because things change up. Like last week, we got cut off for a moment and then had to come back on. Okay, let's see if this works for a while. All right, here we go. Wow. Didn't want to be inside, but now I'm inside.
So for forgiveness, so for Hawaiians, for instance, traditional peoples, they've had a practice since the beginning of their culture of doing forgiveness daily. So at the end of the day, they look through their day, and they have an active practice of forgiveness that they would do individually, but also as groups. So a lot of the stories that are told are things like families getting together at the end of the day to do whatever forgiveness work and to clear away anything from the day that needs to be cleared away so that they're not taking it into their dream time and then they're not reliving those things the next day.
This is fascinating because it actually is perfectly in alignment with the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. Are you aware of that? That as people move through the 12 steps, the last couple of steps are taking a daily inventory?
Yeah, I haven't actually gone through the program, but I know a lot of people. I have a lot of friends who have are healing their addictions or worked on healing their addictions with shamanism, shamanic practices, but they also attend either NA or AA or one of those. So they're quite complementary, and I think a part of the reason is because there is a spiritual aspect to NA and AA.
Yes.
And so they realize that if someone's going to stay sober over the course of their lives, then they actually need a daily practice of releasing things.
Yes. And that's the same. That's exactly what they talk about in the program is having had a spiritual awakening, something about, making sure you take a daily inventory of your defects of character or whatever's going on. So that's very similar to this Hawaiian practice of, what did you say, individuals and families at the end of the day working through a forgiveness routine of sorts. Mm-hmm. And what did that look like exactly?
Well, it's different in different traditions, right? Okay. So in Hawaiian medicine, whatever the medicine practices are passed on through families. So every family lineage has a different sort of ceremony or practice that they do. So it's not going to be uniform. You go to Hawaii, you meet different people. You're gonna I know I've learned at least 3 or 4 different ways to do Ho'oponopono, which is their forgiveness practice.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So, and all of them are effective. And they're all quite different. So when I was in Hawaii, this last time, one of the ways we did Ho'oponopono was by braiding tea leaves. Like, tea is a plant that is sacred to Hawaiian people. So we braided the tea leaves, and as we were braiding the tea leaves, we were saying our Ho'oponoponos and putting our forgivenesses from the day into the plant.
So what does that mean? You're saying your Ho'oponoponos, like, do you articulate the things that you feel challenged about from the day? Like, what does that mean?
I found it's good to articulate at the beginning when you're first learning. Now I just do it by sensing everything that needs to go in the day. But I wouldn't have been able to start out that way when I was starting this practice. I had to be able to articulate things. So, you know, if I started braiding my tea leaves, I would say, I'm sorry for forgiving myself, right? Because the other thing about shamanic practice is we think that we have to do a lot of forgiveness for others, but actually the forgiveness that is most important is the forgiveness of ourselves. Like, how do we let ourselves down in the day? Mm-hmm. Or if we were triggered by someone else, what is it about that we need to forgive? Why were we triggered by that other person? Yes, yes. So a tea, what I might put into a tea leaves is, I'm sorry for missing the cues that person was giving me. I'm sorry for avoiding this for so long. I'm sorry for not dealing with something right away.
I love this.
I'm sorry for not trusting my intuition. So when you're going through your day, you go backwards, right? From the time you go to bed, and you go backwards till you woke up to see what are the things that have stuck with me during the day that aren't leaving or are heavy or are unresolved, you know? And it doesn't mean that you're going to be able to resolve everything at the end of every day. No. You might be having an ongoing conflict with a family member or a friend.
Yeah.
And you can't help what that person does from their end of things, but you can certainly, every day you can recapitulate what's happened that day for you in the context of that relationship. Right. And you can forgive yourself. But then also the other part of forgiveness is, I'm sorry for, I forgive you. You're saying to yourself, what I learned is, these are the 3 things I'm going to do differently next time. These are the 3 strategies I'm going to try different.
Okay, so let me just repeat that. I'm sorry for, I forgive you.
Yeah.
And this is what I've learned? Is that was the 3rd one?
That's right.
I love it.
The learning piece is important because oftentimes we can feel like we are at the whim of what happens in our lives. Like, we have no control, but actually, and we don't have control, but what we can learn to do is to incorporate more strategies into our lives so that we can go, okay, next time this person approaches me with this kind of energy, for instance, or whatever, these are the 3 things I'm going to try that are new, that I haven't tried before. Mm-hmm. And those things come from your spirit. Those things are inspired by your spirit. So you're asking your spirit those 3 things. Show me three new things I can do. Or who can I talk to? Can I talk to someone that can teach me strategies?
Right. It also holds you very accountable for your own life.
That's right.
Right? Instead of giving your power away all the time to other people, situations, places, things, you're holding your own power. You're taking care of yourself in a different way. Mm-hmm. And by doing that, I imagine it goes out and is helpful to others.
Yeah. Now, the interesting thing is some relationships may still die away.
Yeah.
Process, so our job from our end of things when we're doing Ho'oponopono and we're forgiving ourselves is we're trying to clear that energy. So whether a relationship, and it can be a relationship with the earth, it can be a relationship with another person, it could be the relationship with ourselves, which obviously we can never get away from the relationship with ourselves.
As much as we try.
So this is another reason why it's such an important practice, because we're the only ones we have to live with 24 hours a day, 7 days a week until we die.
Yes, in our own skin every single day.
That's right. And our spirit and the choices we make are the only ones we have absolute control over.
Yes.
Nothing else in the world we have any control over.
Yes.
Yes. So whether a relationship dies away naturally or it doesn't, and it transforms so that it can accommodate the way that people are changing throughout time, because we don't stay the same. Or we shouldn't stay the same if we are evolving and if we're healing and we continue to grow. Then we're at peace with that. Whatever happens, if we keep doing our Ho'oponopono every day, then we know we're at peace with whatever happens. We're doing our part, the only thing that we can do in the situation.
Interesting, because everything you're saying seems totally in alignment with my own truth and my own experience. I've never thought of it that way. And as much as I've done the 12 steps twice through, I've never actually adopted this whole practice of really consciously taking this inventory, making space for it every day. So you're talking about making space for this forgiveness practice. Then it also makes me think of A Course in Miracles, which a lot of people follow A Course in Miracles. And they believe that the root of all dis-ease, the root of all illness, the root of everything is an inability to forgive. And that by practicing forgiveness, it provides you with the freedom, the peace, the ease, the happiness, the joy that people are looking for. Because anything other than love is supposed to be not real, right? And so, yeah, I think in A Course in Miracles, that's where they teach a ton of forgiveness, I think.
So in shamanism, we don't say that anything other than love is not real. It is real.
So maybe I'm just explaining it in some sort of rash, hasty, generalized way. I don't know if that's exactly how it is there, just to put that out there. So for ACIM followers, I don't want to say something that's not really a thing. But anyway, go back to shamanism. We don't, okay.
Well, I say it, Shyloe, just because it is a way, I have met people before who are following, spiritual practices where they refuse to acknowledge anything that isn't loving or that doesn't feel good. But that's not our experience as humans. So everything that we experience as humans is real. We can't say.
Yeah, I like this because I can never figure that out. Yeah.
Now, where the Ho'oponopono is important is the Ho'oponopono reminds us of aloha. It reminds us that aloha, which is the unconditional love of spirit that never changes. That is a constant. It's not our idea of love, because our idea of love is not accurate. It is tainted. Right. We have an idea of what love is. That is actually not, it's not really anywhere close to aloha. So in Ho'oponopono, what you're doing is you're realigning yourself with the unconditional love of spirit. That doesn't change. I could go out and kill someone today. I would not at this moment. But I could go out and do that.
Hear that, Jen? That's not on your list for your daily activities today.
And I can still do Ho'oponopono, and I can still, I would still have to do all my Ho'oponopono, and I would still have to deal with whatever the imbalances were that caused me to take that action. But it's not like that state of aloha is not available to all of us all the time. So Ho'oponopono keeps us daily connected to that state, where we all come from.
Right.
Because it's easy to forget when we're living here in this very dense reality where there is a lot of suffering, there is a lot of sadness, and there is a lot of grief.
Yes, and there is.
That's right. And so that's where shamanism comes in handy, because what shamanism does is it ritualizes your life. So you build these things into your life so that you remember, so that you're not disconnected. But it's not that aloha is disconnected from us. It is that we disconnect from aloha in our daily living of struggle.
So I have a question then, Jen, because I know there's some people who are, opposed to or resistant to this idea of ritual. And, in some of the, in the reading I've done around parenting, in the reading I've done around some personal growth ideas, ritual is extremely important for human beings. That's what I understand anyway. Why would you say that that's the case? What has been your experience around having a ritual of sorts?
So don't call it a ritual. Call it a practice.
Or a routine?
I don't like routine. I personally would not use the word routine, but I think practice is good because even scholars realize that they need to practice. You need to practice a skill to get good at it.
Right.
So if you don't like the spiritual connotations of the word ritual or ceremony, then use a practice.
Okay.
You know, it's kind of like the debate that's going on now around meditation in schools. Well, you're bringing a spiritual practice into schools. Well, no, we're bringing a mindfulness practice into schools.
Yes. Yes.
We're bringing a internally reflective process into schools.
Yeah.
You don't have to subscribe to, you don't even have to believe in God or any kind of belief system in order to examine how your mind works.
Right.
Or to observe it.
Right.
We can all do that without putting anything at risk, whether we describe ourselves as an atheist or we describe ourselves as a Catholic. It's a practice. Just like you have to practice writing to get good at it. You have to practice singing if you want to become a better singer.
Right.
Everything requires practice.
And so for people, let's say, like, you know, there's a lot of different people that tune into this show every week, and I get questions about it. I have people approaching me about it all over the place. And so a lot of these people have challenges. Let's get serious. There's nobody who lives right now on the planet who isn't struggling with something. So be it just their own daily stress, you know, the loss or grief of a family member or relationship. So in what ways, like what, I understand last time one of the things you highly recommended was this forgiveness practice. What would be one of the ways they could integrate this into their lives that would feel most like sustainable or most easy for them? What would you suggest?
I would say it's like anything else that you're building into your everyday life. You have to find a place for it in your life that works well. So for some people, you know, for instance, I'll go back to meditation. They find doing meditation in the morning for them for a set amount of time that they can dedicate to it. And that's going to be different for everybody depending on what their lives are. The morning works. Mm-hmm. You know, for other people, the evening right before bed works.
Right.
I don't do it right before bed anymore. Now I do Ho'oponopono throughout my day.
Okay.
I'm triggered. I do Ho'oponopono inside myself right away. I have a conflict with someone. I do Ho'oponopono inside myself right away. So I don't have to dedicate a piece of time. Now my life is in alignment with Ho'oponopono because I have practiced it for so long. Oh God, because I've made it a priority. And because I've seen how it's helped me in my life not to stay stuck. Right. I was depressed for 10 years in my 20s, like fairly serious depression, and I was suicidal. If I had the Ho'oponopono practice then, I wouldn't have sunk so deep into depression. I'm not saying I wouldn't have felt depressed, but I wouldn't have, it wouldn't have been so hard for me to climb out of it at the end of the 10 years.
I totally agree. Because I suffered from depression myself for a good 2 decades, Jen. And so as a depressed person, we are so steeped in this, being so hard on ourselves. Like everything that we do, we feel like is contributing to this never-ending sadness that's built up in ourselves. And so just to have some sort of relief or release from that by having a practice like this would have been, well, priceless, really, like unbelievably helpful to that journey, because damn, that was horrid.
Yeah. I mean, the other interesting thing about Ho'oponopono is that Ho'oponopono also gives you the answers to what the root issues are for you, like for us as individuals. When I'm doing Ho'oponopono with say I'm having I'll go back to this because it's common. I'm having a conflict or a confrontation with someone in my life that I haven't been able to figure out. I haven't been able to figure out how to either come to a place of understanding with someone.
Yeah.
We haven't been able to come to a place of mutual agreement. We haven't been able to resolve whatever the issues are between us. When I'm doing Ho'oponopono, I often get ahas like, this is what's going on for me. Or all of a sudden in Ho'oponopono, one of my needs will be revealed that I had no consciousness of.
Yeah.
So then maybe one of my strategies is saying to this person, this is actually what I need. This is kind of a bottom line for me in our relationship.
Yeah.
Now, the other person may not be able to meet you there, but it does put your needs out in the space.
Yeah.
Right?
I love it. I'm crazy for this practice now.
The other person. Yeah. Now it might be that the person says, and in a previous relationship I had, going through this Ho'oponopono process with my previous partner, one thing that I noticed was the Ho'oponopono process got me so clear on what I needed in an intimate relationship from a partner that in the end, the only loving thing that we could do was to separate, because we were too far apart in terms of what our needs were, what we wanted in life. The stages of our lives were very different because, of course, he was much older than me. And so he's in a different place, right?
Right.
And if I hadn't gone through that process of Ho'oponopono, I wouldn't have been able to attract the partner that I'm with now, because the partner that I'm with now has, of course, she's more in alignment with who I am today, and where we have very similar, not similar, but like complementary. Like I don't need to change her to be with her. Right. And we're growing together. And I know that means that she's going to go off and do things that are really different from what I need to do for myself, but we can hold space for each other to do that.
Nice. That's so great.
So I don't know if that gives a little bit of an example, but.
Well, the thing I appreciate most about that is, again, this Ho'oponopono practice brings the focus back on yourself. You discover more about what it is you need, and you put it out there, right? Yeah. You put it out there from a place of vulnerability and honesty, and then you see what happens. And I mean, I know as human beings, we have a lot of fear, and lots of times we want to control what's going on around us. And so sometimes a practice like this might feel a little scary, right, at first. But for me, what it sounds like is the ultimate result of this practice has been true deep connection with your partner and true deep connection with yourself. And from those places is where we really feel the most happiness, the most contentment, the most peace in our lives. And so it seems to me that nothing but good can come from this practice for everybody involved.
Mm-hmm. And it's challenging too. I mean, it's just like what you were saying. Like, it's not that all of a sudden Ho'opono will take away all of the struggle out of your life. No, but it does teach us how to engage that struggle in a way that is not crazy making. You can actually, and it's not such a huge leap that all of a sudden you have to spend all of your time and energy putting all these things into place. No, it allows you to do certain steps, to do certain things and be proactive every day, and to learn about yourself a little bit every day, so that life becomes more manageable.
We have a comment here from one of the viewers saying that I've been depressed since childhood. Meds made me live in a brain fog. Now I meditate and I'm trying to follow access conscience. Being off my meds and feeling better. Still have low days, but not as often and not as bad. So yeah, sounds like a practice like this might be helpful to this viewer, to add to her practice of meditation and other things. What would you suggest if she's never done a practice like this? I know you talked about and I asked you this question a bit earlier, around how to start it, and you were talking about how you do it throughout the day today, or just developing some sort of routine, but you could do it in the morning or the evening. And what exactly is it that you would add? Like, you would just be laying in bed and asking yourself how your day was, or what, how do they actually do a practice like this in their day, Jen?
Right. So I'll do one so that people can see.
Okay.
So I would say, Jen, I love you. And I'm going to let that sink in before I move on. So right away, I'm starting from a place of connecting myself from a state of aloha. That no matter what I'm going to say next, which is usually a whole litany of how I didn't meet up to my expectations of myself, or the kind of person I know myself to be on the inside, I'm starting from a place of, it doesn't matter what you're going to say, we are starting from this place of aloha.
Right.
So it's not going to be a criticism of yourself. You're not going to be hitting yourself over the head with a club as you're doing your ho'oponopono.
Right.
You're going to be, it's a compassionate and it's an honest reflection of the day. So, Jen, I love you. I'm sorry for dragging out the struggle with so-and-so. I'm sorry that I couldn't put words to what I was feeling. I couldn't share that properly with so-and-so. I'm sorry for becoming impatient in traffic. I'm sorry that I lapsed in my self-care and I went too long without giving myself what I needed today. I'm sorry for, and you just keep going until you're finished. So there's nothing left from your day. And then you say, I forgive you. And again, you let that sink in. When I say sink in, it's like you're going to keep breathing and take it until it lands somewhere in your body. And it will land if you give it time. And then you say, thank you for showing me that I was having a hard day and that it was hard to regulate. Next time, I will do more breathing in traffic. Next time, I will let the person I'm talking to know that I'm having a hard time expressing myself. Next time, I will remind myself to be more patient when I'm having a hard day with myself. I love you. So that's the arc of it. And it's the same thing all the time. I love you. I'm sorry. I forgive you. Thank you for, this is what I learned. This is what I'm going to try and do different next time, right? And then I love you. So it's kind of like parenting a child, right?
Yeah.
Kids are learning.
I'll cry because this is the second time I learned about some other practice a few months back, and I started bawling as soon as I hear about it because it's so amazingly powerful and good. And the same thing's happening today, and I'm trying to hold it back, but it's just so beautiful. It's so it resonates so deeply with the truth of what we need as people, to really beautifully hold space for ourselves. Because, Jen, we're just practicing at this whole show. We really are. We are practicing. This is we're doing our best, right? And we can be so hard on ourselves. And so, God, this is a beautiful practice. And I wish I had had it too when I was in the middle of my depression. Jesus Christ. And I love Jesus, so I hope nobody's by that. But man, oh man, I can't even imagine. That
this is the kicker too, Shyloe, is that the more we practice Ho'oponopono and the more we evolve, meaning the more we love ourselves and accept ourselves the way we are, and the way that God or Spirit made us, with all of our gifts, with all of our challenges, which we all have, then it's the level of challenge goes up in our lives because we're evolving, but it teaches us how to meet those challenges. So it's not I don't have any challenges in my life now. It's just they're of a different quality.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, I'm challenged to keep writing about my experiences in an honest way. I'm challenged to show up and help to lead groups or guide people. You know, how do I do that in a good way that still honors their path, but also shows what I've learned, right? So
yes, and I can relate to that. I mean, recently I had a situation where, you know, I've never had my heart broken in that way before in my entire life, like obliterated on some level. And, you know, I did the process that I do afterwards, which was like really meeting the emotion, like sticking with the feeling of what was happening. I wrote about it, moved through it, and came out the other side still feeling like I can do this again. But you're right. It was a totally different level of like heartbreak. I'd never had my heart broken, really. So, and I don't regret it. It's not like I think to myself, oh, this is so terrible. I can't believe that happened. This person's so awful. I don't feel like a victim. I just see it as part of this journey of being alive, breathing on this planet. This is Earth School, people. This is Earth School. This is what Earth School is like.
Yeah, and now going back to the depression. So if someone's had depression, there are very real changes that happen to the brain. Our brains don't make endorphins like other people's brains do. We need to actively work to build up our endorphin supply. Whereas a brain that hasn't gone through depression, their endorphin supply is already pretty constant. So that's just a reality we have to live with if we've had depression, or if we have a tendency towards depression.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And of course, today we know that this is also, depression is handed down throughout families. In shamanic medicine, we say that it is also a function of intergenerational trauma.
Yep.
Right?
Yes,
so,
absolutely.
So that's just the reality of it. But what I found for myself, what Ho'oponopono does, it doesn't change the fact that sometimes I have dips in my energy that I can feel throughout the day or the year or what I'm going through. But it means that the actual process of Ho'oponopono is endorphin feeding, because it's not allowing that energy to drag you down. As you do Ho'oponopono, it brings your energy back up because you're not holding on to all that stuff.
Yeah.
Our energy systems aren't designed to hold on to that heavy energy. So we have to practice keeping on releasing it every day.
Yeah.
If I have a challenging exchange with someone, as soon as I leave that person, sometimes during the time I'm talking to the person, I am releasing that energy out of my space. Yeah. If I don't do that, I can't think clearly.
Yes.
And I don't know how to move forward.
Yeah.
So it's a continuous process. It's not like you master it and then it's like you.
No, but then what would the point of that be? Years where I wished I was like, I just want to get over all my crap so I can get on with my life. Like, can we just finish the crap, the shit show? Can that be over? Then I can really live. Well, you know what? The shit show is really living. That's part of really living, is going through the shit show. Because honestly, people, if we didn't have this stuff, we wouldn't be growing and evolving, and it'd be extremely boring. I've just surrendered into that, you know, and maybe that's part of coming out of the depression, is letting go of that, like, desperate need to have things be good all the time so I could just have a break, right? Yeah. But honestly, this practice, like, the part of the reason too I was crying is just, I teach my clients all the time, be gentle with yourself. That was one of the biggest things that I was taught when I was feeling depressed, was the be gentle with yourself. And it's one of the biggest things that made a difference. And that's what this practice sounds like, is another, not only a way of being gentle with yourself, but also holding yourself accountable to be able to move forward in a powerful way by taking responsibility for what's going on and by forgiving yourself. It seems pretty simple. And at the same time, it requires some, it's stretching because it requires like a daily commitment to stick with it, right? Mm-hmm. But beautiful, absolutely beautiful. I'm so grateful you shared this. Like, thank God you came back on the show. Wendy Haley was bugging me. She's like, Jen's got to come back. But I mean, we knew that right away, right? Because I booked you right away after it was done. I was like, we have not had enough. Hopefully she's watching, because she'll be pretty happy. I actually put it right on her Facebook page. I was like, Jen's back today, Wendy. But yeah, it looks like our time is, we've been going solid for about 25 minutes. Is there any other questions, people? For those of you who are watching, there's still some people watching. Any questions before we wrap her up here? Or maybe while we wait for questions, Jen, I don't know if there's any last words of encouragement or hope you can offer people who want to start this practice, or maybe where they can go read about it. And then you can share also the details of how people can get a hold of you again, which would be great.
Okay. So when we're doing this practice, we are imagining if we had had the parenting when we were young that we needed, not necessarily the parenting we got, but the parenting we needed in order to grow and flourish according to our own gifts and challenges, because everybody has those. What would you have needed from your parents if they had been able to give that to you? And a lot of our parents were not, for different reasons.
Yeah.
And then how do you give it to yourself in the process of Ho'oponopono? So if you didn't want somebody yelling at you or berating you for your mistakes, if you wanted somebody to help you learn from your mistakes and help you fix things after you made a mistake, because as kids, we don't know that. We need guidance to sort of help us to learn about the world. Then how are you going to give that to yourself? How are you going to parent yourself as an adult through the process of Ho'oponopono? Mm-hmm. So when I do Ho'oponopono, looking at it from that lens helps me. Not to blame my parents for what they didn't give me or what they couldn't give me. That's not what Ho'oponopono is about. It's about I'm a new generation, and I have the skills and I have the ability, I have the time that my ancestors sometimes did not have. Mm-hmm. I'm not growing up in a dictatorship. Mm-hmm. I'm not growing up in that intense level of trauma every day. Mm-hmm. So I have more space to practice those things and get good at it. So my descendants have an easier time too. So this is kind of the scape that I want to leave for Ho'oponopono, that you're not just doing it for yourself, that it actually also touches your lineage. Mm-hmm. If you learn to do this, and your kids, your nieces, your nephews, it's like you're creating an energetic pathway that they can go down in the future, different from what our ancestors could do.
I love this. I'm crazy in love with this now. Crazy for this practice now. Crazy for it. I want to live it now. It's awesome. It's freaking awesome. I'm sharing this show absolutely everywhere. I mean, every week I share the show all over the place, but I'm sharing it even more places now. Like the show, I think last weekend got like 1,100 views or something. We need everybody on the planet to see this show, Jen.
And I did an interview with Uncle Harry Uhane Jim on my Going Shamanic radio show on Ho'oponopono too, and that show is also, it's an hour long. It's filled with Hawaiian.
Can you put the link to that? Like, can these viewers access that show?
They can. Now, if you go onto my own website, so that's spiraldanceshamanics.com.
Okay.
And you look under the Going Shamanic tab, all the shows we've ever done are there. So then you just click.
Is there any way, is it out of, like, could you just put that one in this thread so people could access it like that if they wanted? Ooh. Is that possible?
Yeah, just give me a sec.
Okay. Because then it just makes it simple for people. They just click on it. They head on over and hear you do that hour-long show. It's great. Thanks again so much, Jen, for doing this. This is so awesome. I love chatting with you. Maybe I'll be in Calgary. We can hang out in real life sometime soon. That'd be really nice.
Yeah, not bad, eh? That would be nice.
We never really hung out other than at the collab. With a
little bit of
barely there.
That's the beginning of the show.
It sounds awesome.
And where do you want me to post this?
Like I don't know if you can do it from right where you're at, but when you go to the Facebook, like the Facebook post about it, if you can post it in the comments on the Facebook post itself, then people can access it just really easily.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep, I'm going to do that right now. After the show, though.
Okay, perfect. Well, I'm going to say goodbye. I'm going to say goodbye. You've been watching Real Lives, Real People with Shyloe, and today's guest was Jen Engracio, and she's going to post a little link to, it's a radio show, right, that you do, a podcast radio show?
It's called Going Shamanic, And I will post a link, but they can, if people want to access all the shows, they can come onto my website, spiraldanceshamanics.com, and it's all there as well.
Great. Thank you, Jen. And if you ever need to get a hold of me, you can find me on Facebook. It's Shyloe Fayad, or you can check out my website, planforjoy.com, which is going to be under some sort of shifting because I got some stuff brewing. Anyway, hope you have a great Sunday, you guys. Bye for now.
Bye, guys.
Okay, there we go.